I don't know if it's so close to St. Patrick's Day or because Notre Dame just won in the NCAA tournament, but my Irish is up today, and I feel like we have to fight a couple of these issues on the floor. So, I mean, this one's a doozy, because I have seen some transparently political bills pass through this House, and I have seen some blatantly unconstitutional bills pass through this House. But this one is both transparently political and blatantly unconstitutional, and I'm really appalled that it would come before our House today in this fashion. I mean, listen, we all know that the majority party wants a redo on 2016. It's not going to happen. The vote is over. I know people want you to do something about Donald Trump. You're not going to be able to do anything about Donald Trump. He's the President of the United States. I thought maybe not releasing his tax returns during the campaign would hurt him. I think you thought that too.
Assemblyman Webber, if you can stay on the bill, and I gave you a little bit of latitude, but this is about future, and it's prospective, so it's not about what you're talking about. So please stay on the bill. Once
again, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate your view of this. Our view of this is it's transparently political, transparently about the President of the United States, similar to protesting in the streets 24 hours after an inauguration. But let's talk about the constitutionality of this bill, or rather the unconstitutionality of this bill. The sponsor is a lawyer, a man I respect. And as an attorney, I know that the Assemblyman has read the Constitution and knows that there are but 3 requirements to become President of the United States. You have to be age 35 or greater. You have to be a natural-born citizen of the United States, whatever that means. And you have to be a resident of the country for 14 years. That's it. And this body and the New Jersey State Senate and the governor of the state of New Jersey has no authority to add additional requirements to who can run for President of the United States. I appreciate the recognition from my colleague before as a student of the Constitution. I think we can all read the Constitution. And the majority leader is right. We are an equal branch of government, and we have an obligation to read the Constitution. I'm urging you to do that today, please. Even Rutgers law professor Ron Chen, I think you're familiar with that name, no conservative he. In fact, I'm fairly certain he didn't vote for the President of the United States in last November. He even says this is patently unconstitutional. You cannot, a state legislature cannot put additional requirements on candidates for the President of the United States that the United States Constitution does not already put on them. If you want this requirement on a candidate for the United States, or presidency of the United States, go to Congress, get a constitutional amendment, go to the states, get a convention, get a constitutional amendment. There's a mechanism for doing it, but passing a bill in the state of New Jersey isn't that mechanism. Brings me to one of my last points, Mr. Speaker, because I read this yesterday, and it was the Senate sponsor of this measure, when asked about this bill, actually said anything is constitutional until you take it to court. And therein lies the problem, I think, because as the majority leader pointed out, we are an equal branch of government. We have an obligation. We take an oath at the beginning of each session to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of New Jersey. And by voting yes on something like this today, you're violating that oath. You are violating the United States Constitution, and what this really does is just distract from the issues that the people of the state of New Jersey send us down here to focus on, like reducing their property taxes and making the state a more affordable place to live. Mr. Speaker, for goodness sake, pull the resolution, the bill down before this body embarrasses itself. Thank you. The Assemblyman is a man of goodwill. He's very bright, and I appreciate the dialogue, the opportunity to debate with him on the floor. It's not often we get a chance to debate constitutional issues, so let's take advantage of that. I think it would be good for the body and the people of the state. First of all, I appreciate your reference to Professor Tribe. I'm reminded, however, of George Will's classic line, "I'd rather be governed by the first 535 names in the Boston phone book than the faculty of Harvard Law School." And to that I ascribe. But more to the point, and I wonder if the sponsor would yield for questions, Mr. Speaker. My question to you is, what happens when New Jersey adds this restriction to a presidential candidate, but New York decides that they're not concerned about tax returns. Rather, they think a presidential candidate should be at least 50 years old before he or she can run for president. And they passed that law in New York. Would that be constitutional?
Well, through the Speaker, absolutely not, because our Constitution says age 35. So then it wouldn't be.
Okay.
That's the difference. It doesn't say that as it relates to this particular provision.
Okay. So how about if a state, through you, Mr. Speaker, how about if a state decided that you needed to hold elected office before you were eligible to run for the President of the United States? Would that be constitutional?
I can't speak to that. Again, I'm not a constitutional scholar. I'd have to look at the case law and determine such. I would think that, though, that would be discriminatory against a certain class of individuals. This is different. Now, I don't know if this is the truth for President Trump, but everybody pays taxes.
Mr. Speaker, again, actually, I think Rachel Maddow just found out about that. Mr. Speaker, through you, so would it be permissible for a state to require that everyone have military service before they serve as President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief of our armed forces?
Oh, and I appreciate the line of questioning, but my answers, and I think anybody's reasonable answer would be the same. When you discriminate against a particular class to keep them from running, then it's totally distinguishable. But rather, when you put something in effect that's reasonable and would apply to the entire group and not precluding anyone, that's a different story. Now, if someone wants to make a volitional decision not to be on the ballot because they don't want to comply, that's a different question.
Mr. Speaker, again, through you, then would it be constitutional for a state to say, well, you have to disclose all of your high school and college transcripts before you're eligible to run for the President of the United States?
I would say no, as there's many individuals who don't go to college. Harry Truman's one of them that was President of the United States, and that, again, would be discriminatory in some way. And I think, again, through the Speaker, and I don't mean to be argumentative, this is about federal income taxes, something we all file, something we all pay, and something we know to be demonstrative of information that's important to anybody making a reasoned decision in voting. Given the state's latitude in making those kinds of requirements and setting ballot rules, I think it's very reasonable. And I note that 76% of the people in this country, Democrat, Republican, or otherwise, think it's reasonable. So this isn't political. This is setting the stage for something that has voluntarily been done for 40 years and should be done and will now be done as a matter of law.
Mr. Speaker, on the bill, I think you can see the absurdity that this can reach when each state starts to be very creative about the requirements it's going to have for ballot access for candidates for President of the United States. Each of the candidates we've had an opportunity to vote for in the last 40 years have all gone to high school, graduated college. We could ask for their transcripts. Some have served in the military, some haven't. States will have all sorts of requirements that they think are important. That is why this is unconstitutional. That is why there is one document that says what the requirements are for President, and it doesn't include disclosing your tax returns. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.